We all struggle with procrastination at some point in our lives. Some only do it every so often, while others would consider themselves professional procrastinators. Why don't we do what we know is good for us when we tell ourselves we're going to do it? We promise ourselves we're going to save our money, but we spend it on frivolous things that we don't need. We promise ourselves that we're going to diet, but we surrender to the pizza on Saturday night. We promise ourselves that we're going to finish that work assignment on Monday, but our boss doesn't need it till Friday, so we rush Thursday to get it done. As they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. To understand why we procrastinate, we have to first understand our tendency to make vastly different decisions depending on our emotional state. So for the rest of this video, we're going to separate emotions into two separate categories: hot versus cold. Hot emotions are those that we experience with a high level of arousal. A hot state is related to high levels of interest, emotion, or activity. Emotions like fear, sexual desire, exhaustion, or other strong emotions are in this category. Cold emotions, on the other hand, are emotions we experience with a low level of arousal. They are typically when we're in a more rational state than emotional. In a cold state, we're probably calm and in control of ourselves. We may also just be bored or tired. While it's probably no surprise that we make different decisions when we're more emotional versus more rational, it's important to get an idea of how different our decisions are. A study done in 2005 shows how different our decisions can be in hot versus cold states. The study named the heat of the moment, the effect of sexual arousal on sexual decision making, took a couple dozen college guys and had them fill out a survey asking them to, 1, indicate how appealing they find a wide range of sexual activities, 2, report their willingness to engage in morally questionable behaviors in order to obtain sex, and 3, describe their willingness to engage in unsafe sex. Each question was simply a yes or no. They had the participants first answer the questions in a cool state, but they were prompted to predict how they would answer if they were in a hot state. Basically, they just had them take the laptop back to the dorm and fill out the survey, but again, while thinking about how they would answer if they were in a more hot state of emotion. Then when the subject came back to the lab the next day to return the laptop, they were then offered to answer the same question again, but this time in a hot state of emotions. They did this by telling the participant to take the survey while looking at pictures of naked women and masturbating. And the results were pretty glaring. They showed that sexual arousal, being in a hot state, had a very strong impact on all three areas of judgment and decision making. They were much more willing to engage in a wider range of sexual activities, much more willing to engage in morally questionable behaviors, and much more willing to engage in unsafe sex. For instance, there was a 27% increase in yes responses to the question, can you imagine having sex with a 50-year-old woman? A 25% increase in yes responses to, if you're attracted to a woman and she proposed a threesome with a man, would you do it? 28% increase in yes response to, would it be fun to tie up your sexual partner? 25% increase in yes responses to, would you keep trying to have sex after your date says no? And a 19% increase in no responses to, would you always use a condom if you didn't know the sexual history of a new sexual partner? And at this point, you're probably thinking, what does a study about guys getting more horny and willing to do questionable things for sex have to do with procrastination? Good question. Let's get back to that. What this study shows is the importance of situational, i.e., hot versus cold emotions on our decision making and our inability to predict our own behavior in a different state of emotions. See, emotions grab us and make us view the world from a different perspective. And procrastination is rooted in this same kind of problem. When we tell ourselves we're going to save money, we're in a cold state. When we promise to cut back on snacking, we're in a cold state. But then one of these hot emotions come flooding through us in the moment when we see the new iPhone come out, or when we're out with friends and that pizza is screaming at you from the menu. Giving up on long-term goals for immediate gratification. That is the root of all procrastination. So how can we overcome our innate desire to not do the things we know we need to do or even want to do? Let's look at another study. This one named Procrastination, Deadlines, and Performance, Self-Control by Pre-Commitment. No sexual activities in this one. The goal of this study was to determine three things again. Are people willing to self-impose meaningful deadlines to overcome procrastination? 2, are self-imposed deadlines effective in improving performance at a task? And 3, when self-imposing deadlines, do people set them optimally for maximum performance enhancement? This one was conducted at MIT across 3 different classes. Each class was told that they had to write 3 papers over the course of the 12-week semester, and that the majority of their final grade would be determined by these papers. The first class was told that they could turn in the 3 papers at any time during the semester, but they had to commit to a deadline for each paper by the end of the first week. The second class was told that they had no deadlines at all and just needed to submit their papers by the end of the last class. The third class was given 3 strict deadlines set by the professor at the 4th, 8th, and 12th week of the semester. Which of these classes do you think did the best? The one with no deadlines, self-imposed deadlines, or enforced deadlines? At the end of the semester, when the grades were finalized, class number 3, the one that had the deadlines enforced on them, performed the best. Class number 1, the class that had self-imposed deadlines, performed second best. And the worst performing class was the one that had no deadlines at all. So what do these results mean, and how can we incorporate something into our lives to stop procrastinating so much? There are 2 main takeaways. The first being that restricting freedom, i.e. enforced deadlines, equally spread out, is the best cure for procrastination. Think about getting an assignment at work. If your boss tells you to do something, you're going to do it. But the second takeaway is that by pre-committing to deadlines, help class number 1 perform much better than having no deadlines at all. So what does this have to do with our everyday life? A lot. The struggle for control is all around us. We live in a time that has all the information we need, and yet we find ourselves again and again in the same problems of failing to reach our long-term goals as we keep giving in to temptation. So the secret to overcoming this? You have 2 options. First one being, just like in class number 1, pre-commitments. Commitment up front to what you're going to do ahead of time. Write it down, share it with others, post it on social media. All these things will help keep you accountable to sticking to your timeline. But this also goes beyond setting deadlines for things that you need to do. If you're going out with friends to a restaurant, look up the menu beforehand and decide what you're going to order so you don't even have to look at the menu when you're there and be tempted. Set up an automatic withdrawal in your bank account to a savings account. The goal is to make as many decisions as we can in the cold emotional state when we are thinking more rationally. Obviously, it's still up to you to follow through with it in the moment, but by committing to something ahead of time keeps us more honest with ourselves. Pre-commitment significantly increases our chances to reach the goals we set for ourselves. Second option, and even better, like class number 3, get someone else to tell you what to do and set your commitments for you. This can come in the form of a mentor, a coach, or just friend, family member that cares about you. But having other people give us strict deadlines or tell us what to do with consequences for not doing it sparks our innate desire to live up to our word to others. No one wants to let other people down, especially if it's someone that we care about and respect. We are social creatures at the end of the day, so getting other people involved in taking the decision making out of our own hands completely is the best way to get over procrastination. And to me, honestly, the best way to do this is through coaching. Hiring a coach to help you get where you want to go for 2 reasons. One is because if you are hiring somebody, you are hiring them because they have achieved what you want to achieve. And another part of procrastination is we don't know if what we're going to do is going to help us get there. And so if we get orders or advice from somebody who has already achieved it and can help us, we are much more willing to do the things that we need to do because we are more confident in its ability to get us the results that we want. And then also number 2 is that by hiring a coach paying money, you are much more invested. You have skin in the game. When you put skin in the game, when you put down your own money, we are ultimately going to be doing things that we wouldn't otherwise. None of us want to feel like we're wasting our money. We want to get our money's worth when we pay for something. So that is going to, again, keep us more involved and more engaged and do the things that we know we need to do whenever we don't want to do it, if we have to be paying for it. So if you want to get over procrastination once and for all, pre-commit to what you're going to do ahead of time, or give someone else the power to commit to things for you. I hope you enjoy these new style of videos that I'll be doing moving forward. And if you get benefit from it, it would do me a huge favor if you subscribed. I appreciate you listening.